We'll call the board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good morning. Consideration of agenda items. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, there are, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
First, we need to add from the auditor treasurer to set a public hearing for the 2020 drainage assessments on October 8th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
All right, the auditor's here, so we'll do that right away after a proclamation and before Health and Human Services. If that's all right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
One more.
Okay.
For county attorney, need to add item B, the deed for conveyance of the Silver Lake shop to the city of Silver Lake. The board has already approved the agreement. This would be the deed pursuant to the agreement.
Very good. All right. Hearing no other additions or corrections, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve with the additions.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Pohlmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Payment of the bills.
Mr. Chair, I move the payment of the bills.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kruger for the payment of the bills in the amount of $26,393.02. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this point, I'd like to read a proclamation regarding National 4-H Week. Whereas 4-H is the largest youth development organization supporting nearly 6 million youth across the country, including 360 McLeod County youth, and whereas 4-H has helped countless youth in McLeod County to become confident, independent, resilient, and compassionate leaders. And whereas 4-H is delivered by a cooperative extension at a community of more than 100 public universities across the nation that provides experience where young people learn by doing through hands-on projects in the important areas of health, science, agriculture, civic engagement, and whereas 4-H Week showcases the incredible ways that 4-H inspires kids to do and highlights the remarkable 4-H youth in McLeod County, who work each and every day to make a positive impact on those around them. And whereas 4-H's network of nearly 500,000 volunteers, including 95 screened McLeod County volunteers and 3,500 professionals, provide caring and supportive mentoring to all 4-Hers, helping them to grow into true leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. Now, therefore, I, Joe Nagel, Chairman of the McLeod County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th, 2019, as National 4-H Week throughout McLeod County. Encourage all of our citizens to recognize 4-H for the significant impact they have made and continue to make, empowering youth with the skills they need to lead for a lifetime. Pass that down. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I just add something?
Yes, please.
The McLeod County dairy judging team is currently on their way home this morning from a national contest in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which the team did very well. Cattle at a national contest are extremely hard to judge, and we had a few of those girls that placed high as individual as well as a high overall team score. The cost to fly the team out there and their coach was pretty well covered by business and individual donations that came across the county. And so that's an indication of how well this community supports that program. And thank you for reading the proclamation today.
Yes, thank you. All right, we'll take our addition, the auditor treasurer.
Good morning.
Good morning, Connie.
Morning, Connie.
So I am just merely here to set a public hearing date for the 2020 drainage assessments to be on October 8th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, any questions regarding that?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the, do we need a motion on this?
Yes, we do.
Move to approve that.
Motion by
request.
Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks,
you.
Connie. Health and Human Services. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. This is a request to retroactively approve an expenditure for lunch from Qdoba for the first official all-staff meeting of the Health and Human Services Division. That meeting was held on last Friday, September 13th. This was a payment that was approved by the previous county administrator, but it did not, for whatever reason, I don't know, since I was not part of the division then, but it didn't get placed on the board for approval beforehand. I do have the amount of the expenditure now. It was $1,453.39.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I move the approval of the expenditure for the Health and Human Services Department all-staff meeting lunch.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I welcomed the Health and Human Service and Public Health that morning, and it was well attended by a large percent of the staff. So I think the money is well spent.
Okay. Then Sheila just, or maybe even Colleen, just hopefully fits in with the audit. If there is an issue, bring it back to us, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. County Attorney. Yeah, I was surprised too.
Not used to that quite so quick. Okay, the first I have is an employment agreement between the county and Sheila Murphy. I have, what?
Pull your microphone up.
Oh, the first item is an employment agreement that I have met with Ms. Murphy, and we have gone over. Relevant items are that this is similar to the prior agreement that we had with Ms. Schultz. If you terminate without cause, you're required to pay 6 months, or 180 days, I should say, of pay and benefits. If you terminate with cause, then there is no such payment. The salary is indicated in Section 3. That would be $112,500. That would be from now until the end of the year. Then whatever the non-union employee increase is, she would be entitled to that. Section 5, outside employment recognizes a current photography business that she has on the side. She may continue doing that as long as it does not interfere with hours of employment. She's done that in the past, so there's no reason to prohibit that now. All of the other items are consistent with what there has been in the past, with the exception of there is no moving expenses because she didn't move, and there is no change or addition to vacation or sick or anything like that. She can carry over what she has, and we go on from here.
All right, any questions for Mike?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the employment agreement with Sheila Murphy.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And your addition, Mike?
Yeah, then there's a second item, and I have prepared a quitclaim deed that would convey our Silver Lake Highway Shop from us to the city of Silver Lake in accordance with the previous exchange of the shop for services agreement that you have approved. What I would do is I would bring this up to them, meet with Mr. Jerabek, their city clerk, and I would anticipate that we would switch over all the utilities and insurance and that stuff on October 1st. But what I would ask that you do is pass a resolution that authorizes your county board chair and county board clerk to sign that would convey the property from the county of McLeod to the city of Silver Lake.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Kruger. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sheriff's Office. Morning, Tim.
Morning. Here today to request permission to reduce our fleet with several vehicles going to auction at Fahey Auction. The vehicles in question are a 2000 Ford Expedition that came from the jail, a 2014 Ford Explorer that's got high miles and has already been replaced, a 2015 Ford Explorer with the high miles and it's already been replaced, a 2009 Chevy Impala, which is obviously 10 years old, high miles and needs to move down the road. And then the two 2004 Polaris Rangers that were utilized by the posse. The plan is to take these to Fahey Auction and auction them through there.
Any questions for Tim?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Not necessarily for Tim, but have our staff looked at, is there a need to utilize these vehicles in any other departments within the county?
I checked with Scott Grivna. He had no need or want for them. We did replace that Ford Expedition from the jail with an older squad out of the sheriff's office fleet, so that got replaced by a vehicle that we already had, so we didn't have to purchase a new one. The Rangers, I checked with Highway and Parks. There was no need for those, mainly because of the maintenance issues. Those also have two trailers that are with them, but for right now, we're going to hold on to them. I believe Fairgrounds is interested in at least one of them, but the other vehicles, there was no need.
And then the goal is, depending on the budget, to replace those.
The two Rangers with
Yeah.
one Ranger, correct.
Okay. All right, any more questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just, maybe this is standard procedure, but what becomes of the funds generated by the sale of these vehicles? Does it go back into the sheriff's budget?
It goes right back into, we have revenue line for sale of capital assets, and it just goes back into the budget for that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning, John.
One item, we'd like to consider approval to purchase a New Holland 108M rotary disc mower. This is from Landway Equipment out of Norwood. A state contract price, $9,630. That includes freight shipping, and that is out of our maintenance budget for 2019.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
John, I noticed that both bids were for the same item of equipment, is that correct? There were
Correct.
just some additions to the second bid that were not required, or?
No, I believe they just, the first one sharpens the pencil a little more than the state bid even.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr.
And it's closer, so we recommend that one.
I noticed there was a delivery charge on the higher bid, so.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Second item, then we'd like to sell the old rotary mower that this one will replace, and we'd like to do that on min bid, which we've done with a lot of our previous equipment.
So, John, I maybe should have asked this before, I'm sorry, but why not Fahey use that local vendor or a different local vendor or any other vendor? Why do you pick Minbid?
Last time we checked with min bid, the fees were a little lower.
Last time you checked, they were lower?
Yep, we can revisit that again.
I think we should always be looking at it if we
Yeah.
can. But if there's a reason behind it, I guess that we can accept that.
Yeah, that's the rationale from up to this point.
Okay. Any questions regarding item B?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Is that the same machine, is it a New Holland also that's going on to
No, the older ones have been Coons or John Deere's, and the shop guys talked about the New Hollands have a different gear system now. We've been sticking a lot of money into the old ones apparently, and the New Holland has a different gear mechanism. It's if you look in the packet, there's a couple pictures, but it's a lot more mechanically friendly, I think the mechanics say. So it should be less wear and tear, less maintenance on it. That's the thought.
I was gonna ask the question, why New Holland, but that's, I assumed that.
Yeah,
it
and I
was-
figured, ideally, we've been buying local, but
No, that's fine.
none of the local vendors have the New Hollands, and it seems like a superior mower from what the guys are saying.
On min bid, are you able to protect, is there a minimum bid, or do you just usually let them go, or how do you?
We can set minimums. This one here, Brian thought is probably around 3,000.
Okay, no,
for
I just,
value, but-
very good, thank
Yeah,
you, John.
yeah. And then they come and pick them up right here, so we don't have to haul them, we don't have to mess around that way. But we'll sure revisit, looking at other options.
Okay. Anything else? I was looking for a motion to approve the sale.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. The rest of our items are pretty tight to the schedule that we posted, except under county administration. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave item A, because I think that's important that that stays on schedule. But Sheila, if you wouldn't mind, we can start taking some of the other items, starting with item B, if you're prepared for that.
Thank you. Item B, asking for you to consider approval to add $100 per pay period to Matthew Troska's wage on an interim basis in the absence of a director in information technology, retro dated to the previous director's departure date of April 16, 2019.
You cannot do anything retroactive. You are free to make it $200 for the next 10 weeks, but you can't make it retroactive back however many weeks. Just like you can't give me a bonus just because I'm a great guy.
I apologize, I thought that we did do that for public health supervisors when we had no social
We aren't allowed
service
to.
director. Okay,
Let's,
so we can adjust, well.
The only exception to that is union contracts, where we end up doing retroactive to the date that the contract started if we haven't settled the contract prior to the contract period.
Mr. Chair.
go ahead, Doug.
Have you basically kind of done a verbal with Mr. Treska on this, or?
No,
Well, then I'm open to whatever.
I say we just, Sheila, if you're open to this, let's just pull it off of here, we can bring it back and
no problem.
and
Yeah,
get,
and go ahead and change the dollar amount so that it ends up being the same thing. That's not the issue.
okay.
And Mr. Chair, I would be in favor of that, but I don't know if we want to do that sitting up right here, but I would be,
I think
if
it's
they
just-
want to adjust it on a new formula, I'm
I think
fine.
it just administratively, we'll just pull it for today, okay? So we'll go to item C.
Okay. Item C, asking for you to consider approval of services agreement with University of Minnesota to conduct a local option sales tax study for McLeod County for a cost of $1,000 with funds from the Public Works budget. The study was requested to provide data for the county board to review in their analysis of the implementation of a local option sales tax in McLeod County. You might be curious to the timing since you've already received the study, but there were two options that you discussed. There was a $1,000 study or a $1,500 study. We went with the $1,000 option.
So this is paying that bill.
It is.
Okay, I get it.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item D,
Yes, ma'am.
asking for you to consider approval to become a recruitment sponsor of the Light the Way for Students Exploring Your Career Field for an amount of $1,000 with funds from the county administration budget. Sponsorship of this event is being requested in place of previous recruiting and advertising budgeted expenditures I will note that we have saved in excess of $5,000 in 2019 by adjusting our recruitment advertising and how we post jobs. This event is at Ridgewater College on October 25th. It is an interactive recruitment event for students to learn about different types of careers that we offer education for locally. And we will be participating in the event as volunteers and would like to be a recruitment sponsor. That would put McLeod County's name on the t-shirts that the students receive, the bags they receive, and all of the print advertising.
Okay, any questions? I'll move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Do you want me to keep going?
Yep, we have 10 minutes.
Okay. Item E, consider approval of a joint powers agreement with Sibley County to join Southwest West Central Co-op for health insurance.
Okay, we met about that in our workshop. Seems like the right move. So.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is that just a full joint powers between the two boards? I mean, there's no appointments, that's just a regular joint powers agreement, right?
With Southwest West Central. So we would be joining as a group with Sibley County to join that cooperative.
So I guess,
Adding on to their joint powers.
okay.
Well, actually, Mr. Chair, if I can explain it, in the past, McLeod, Sibley, and Trailblazer had a joint powers board for our health insurance program.
And that's been dissolved.
With dissolving of program, we're now reconstituting our health insurance program with Sibley County, and then subsequently joining the Southwest and West Central Service Cooperative for their health insurance plan.
So we would have to have a new board appointed, or we're just going to use the existing one?
We'll use the existing board.
And that number is adequate? I mean,
I believe it is one commissioner from each county on that.
Okay.
Mr.
McLeod
Chair.
Sibley joint.
I apologize. So that joint powers agreement with Sibley County will need to be redrafted, and it has not yet. We needed to approve going into it first
Right. Okay.
at the next meeting. So Commissioner Szymanski
Yep.
is on that board, and then they'll review that at our next meeting, what the
And-
joint powers agreement would look like. And I believe at that point, then it would come back to you.
And it could be redrafted too, whatever the county board's wishes are in the new agreement.
Sure.
but
All
it's
right,
basically an equal agreement, is what you're saying, yeah.
Right.
Fine.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to approve the joint powers agreement with Sibley to join West Central. So that's the first step. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So now item F.
Thank you. Consider approval of agreement with Southwest West Central Co-op for health insurance, which for 2020, we would be on Blue Cross Blue Shield Minnesota insurance, the same as 2019.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kruger. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item G, consider approval of preliminary 2020 McLeod County Board of Commissioners meeting dates.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Wright,
Second.
second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item H, consider approval of request by Cynthia and Jorge Ruiz for an extension to September 30th, 2019 for the relocation of the garage structure at 611 DeSoto Avenue, Glencoe, Minnesota. This request is due to weather conditions causing delays in the scheduled relocation. I spoke with Ms. Ruiz yesterday. The slab was poured yesterday. The garage would be moved by September 27th and should not interrupt our construction project at the Government Center.
And I think everybody can sympathize with the weather delays.
A lot of weather delays.
So,
Move to approve.
motion by Commissioner Wright,
Second.
second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item I, notification of Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting on September 24, 2019, 10 o'clock a.m. at the Environmental Services Building at 1065 Fifth Avenue Southeast, Hutchinson, Minnesota. Item J, notification of a joint McLeod County and Sibley County workshop to be held on October 1st, 2019, 11:30 a.m. at EJ's at 450 Main Avenue East in Gaylord, Minnesota.
What's the topic of that? Do you know?
The agenda has not been drafted yet.
But is there a special reason that it's a joint meeting between us?
They've been having one annually, so we
Okay.
set the date.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Item K, notification of McLeod County workshop to be held on October 8, 2019, following the county board meeting at the Glencoe City Center.
All right, thank you. We still have 5 minutes to go. What are the board's wishes? We can we'll start promptly at 9:30, but we can do our calendars, but we'll get as far as we can, but we'll interrupt them, okay? So, Rich, go ahead.
Okay, since our last board meeting, we obviously had a workshop after the meeting. The following day, I attended the Capitol hearing for the DHS procurement system. Rather interesting sitting in, listening to the senators and representatives grilling some of the people from DHS on how things go. On the 5th, we had Prime West board meeting. The 11th, Pack for Families meeting. The 13th was a rather busy day. We had the Health and Human Service, Public Health Appreciation and staff event. A JD 19 informational hearing, and I attended the dedication in Lester Prairie of the Dakota Rail, opening that segment of the trail. And then on the 16th, yesterday, had a ditch 15, JD 15 informational meeting on that one, looking to put that one into redetermination. That brings me up to today.
All right, Paul?
Primary meeting attendance since last time we met was a joint ditch meeting with JD 18, 32, 17, and a Sibley County CD 65. It was an all-afternoon meeting, and we did approve redetermination of benefits on all systems. It should be done within about a year, and the plan, if it still looks advantageous to do so, is to merge all of these systems into one, and it should become a very large but more efficient watershed to manage, especially with how the benefits are arranged. But other than that, just phone calls and setting things up. However, I just want to recognize, the five of us all come from different occupations to serve here, anywhere from home repair and remodeling to apple orchards, but we don't very often bring up the other things that we do. But after seeing the Hutchinson paper this weekend, I think it's all right to recognize our board chairman, Mr. Nagel, and his other job as sergeant of the police department, as he was recognized for saving an individual's life, and then which amounted to a donation going to Law Enforcement Park. So that's definitely a very honorable thing, and of course he very quickly acknowledged others around him that helped. However, it took Mr. Nagel to assess the situation and begin the process of saving an individual's life. So congratulations on being recognized for that.
Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was very nice to have that happen, so thank you. My meetings, I lost track, guys. After the last board meeting, our workshops, talked about lots of phone calls regarding, honestly, Mother Nature and the effects that's had, that I'm sure all the other commissioners can attest to. But also on the 9th, we had a Fair Commission meeting where we continued to discuss the planning for the fairgrounds. The the Hutchinson paper, the Hutchinson Leader, did a story regarding the Civil Air Patrol and their potential move to Hutchinson for a training site, and the intimate details are escaping me, but there is a potential partnership with the fairgrounds regarding facilities for that group if that does happen. Obviously, they'll be very close to each other, so that's exciting as we go there. And then there's also a partnership with the city of Hutchinson that could happen regarding improving the infrastructure for the city and the fairgrounds. So that's a good thing. The 10th department head also discussed some other potential changes in our corrections plan. Had on the 16th, or yesterday, had a meeting regarding Joint Ditch 15, where it's kind of opposite from Commissioner Wright's, where that system is combining this topic, which is much smaller. But this system is talking about splitting up into two different ones. So, so a busy couple weeks. Ron, it's 9:30, so I think we're going to break there. Good. So we will move to our public hearing. So I'm looking for a motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Colleen, we waiting for some
technology.
technology?
The one you had there is perfect. So today I'm here to ask for discussion on bonding options. We still have that $2 million bonding available that was already pre-approved, but I know there's been discussion amongst,
Why don't you wait until,
Might as well wait.
should I wait till it's up?
and speak into the mics?
Okay. Okay, so what's up on the screen is the different bonding options, you know, that we've been considering different bonding. The 2 million, if you go with the $2 million bond, I had two options up there. One's over 20 years, one's over 10 years. But if you go with the 10-year, it's another 80,000. Okay, I don't know where it went.
Yeah, let's get that dialed in here quick, because we're lost it on our screens. Okay, we've got it back.
You do? Okay.
We did.
No idea.
There you go.
Okay. So if you go with a 20-year, the levy increase is less, but there's an increase in the interest. And if you go with 8 million, we were talking about doing an 8 million would be $2 million to finish the government center and $6 million for road construction projects. Or the fourth option is $10 million bond with $6 million to be used for road projects and $4 million to use for the government center and other capital improvement plans down the road. And we're meeting with our financial advisor and bond counsel tomorrow. So that would be Sheila Murphy, Connie Kurtzwig, and myself. So we need to have direction today on which option you want to move forward with.
What is our current debt? And as it consists
And
of
our
bonds?
current debt is, for just our GO bonds, if you don't include the solid waste bonds, we are at $12,450,000. We do have solid waste bonds that amount to $2,985,000. Then there's general drainage bonds, which are the ditch bonds, of $2,140,000. And then we have septic loans in the amount of $1,101,779. So our total outstanding debt is $18,676,779.
But of that, only $12,450,000 is coming out of levy dollars.
If we, nobody get excited on me here, okay? But if we wanted to bond, what is our limit?
Currently, our debt limit is $116,785,000, so we're well below our limit.
Yeah, let's not even come ever close to that. Okay, are there any questions, or how do we want to proceed, guys?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I get it, but I just want to make sure anybody watching or listening does the reason the difference in from 18 million to 12 million is the drainage bonds is basically because that's a pass-through from the drainage authority. Is that the right way to phrase it? I mean, we levy them, we manage the money that's collected from people that are on the watersheds.
Correct. So we bonded for major projects there was 6 different ditches, and then that is spread out on special assessments to those landowners.
Mr.
And then
Chair.
those sewage system bonds, that is through is it the MPCA?
Yes.
And we are the fiscal agent for that, so those are pass-through dollars also. Individual homeowners can apply for those loans. We end up issuing the bonds. They pay back, we pay back. So that's why those aren't levy dollars.
Is the right terminology, isn't that like a revolving?
It's not quite a revolving, because if it were truly a revolving, then you would use those dollars and reissue them. But we are the fiscal agent, and other people are responsible to be paying for them.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
We started this process, well, Budget Committee has started this months ago, trying to figure out how to manage the finances in terms of levy increase, and trying to get more done on highway projects as we continue to fall behind on those budgeted items. I believe it was sometime in early August where we pulled off the wheelage fee, which was kind of the beginning of the rollout of a new kind of a financial plan. And it's hard to tell what you begin with. Is it the bonding, is it the sales tax, or is it the levy? Which one is first? But they all kind of interact within each other. And being able to bond for some more of the projects we have, and definitely heavily bonding for some highway projects, which will be paid by the sales tax. It's all part of this, but we have to start somewhere, and it is in my opinion that our best option is to take the 10 million for 20 years, which means 4 million of that will be for levy-related projects, and 6 will be for highway, and then we'll be talking about that 0.5% sales tax to pay for that bonding later, and how that affects the levy. But for now, I'd make a motion to bond for $10 million for 20 years.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Kruger. The motion on the floor is a bond for $10 million over 20 years. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may just ask, not being involved in the budgeting process, how much of this is bonding for highway road projects? And is there an estimate of how many miles of road work we can get done with that amount of money?
I think at this point, the dollar amount would be $6 million for highway projects, and we have a number of projects that have been brought forward by the highway department. Not really in terms of miles of project, but it depends on which projects we want to designate those dollars for. And I guess perhaps Mr. Brunkhorst needs to answer that question best. But I think we've indicated a list of projects anywhere from overlays to new construction that would be included within the plan.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just to answer some of Ron's questions, it's really hard to figure it in miles. I mean, there's obviously some projects that have been on the calendar, but there's some other projects that are not miles. They're bridges or short ends of industrial roads. So I did the same thing, tried to, as far as the public, try to figure out, well, we're going to do so many miles of road, and that is really difficult with the different procedures and the costs per mile or almost per foot when you get into town, so it's really tough to get that answer.
All right, well, thank you, Commissioners, for that information, that additional feedback. I was just looking at the graph before us that talks about the local option sales tax paying about $485,000 a year, and that pays for that $6 million of highway project.
That 485 would come from that sales tax to pay the bond payment.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, again, could you expand, again, Commissioner Wright and myself have been in some of these meetings, but could you expand on how that sales tax pays the bonds just a little bit so the public understands it?
Right, so we'd bond for if we bonded for the 10 million, we'd get the 10 million up front to pay for the projects so they could bundle projects. And then when the money comes in from the sales tax, we'd have about a year before that first principal payment's due. So that we would generate about 1.9 million in the sales tax. So that would more than cover the bond payment for the 6 million.
And again, just to, for transparency, that's what we had, the study for the tax analysis, that's where we're not just pulling these figures out of the air.
Right, that's where, yeah, that amount came from the study.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Colleen, just out of curiosity, the local option sales tax is basically sent to the Minnesota Department of Revenue. How frequently do they send payments back to McLeod County that we can set in our reserves?
Sorry, I didn't read the study that close, but I know with the wheelage, we got it on a monthly basis, sales tax. I'm not sure if it's monthly or quarterly.
Okay, but it would be intermittently throughout the year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just to explain that sales tax a little bit, so the state did allow a number of years ago counties to collect funds that must go directly to the road and bridge account, either in the form of the wheelage fee, which we had for a few years and pulled that off, or the sales tax. And so that sales tax program cannot be used for any expenses outside of the road and bridge account. That is protected to go there only. So.
All right, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just one other thing that perhaps those listening, via the television, the local option sales tax study done by the University of Minnesota Extension found that about 1/3 of the sales tax derives from out-of-county purchases within McLeod County, so or about 35%, I think, is the actual number. So those folks visiting McLeod County, shopping in McLeod County, are helping to fund this local option sales tax, and that was one of the major selling points that I agreed that the sales tax was one of our better options for our highway department funding.
So I know these are blending together, keeping in mind the public hearing for the sales tax is at 10 o'clock. As everyone is rushing down here. But,
Yep.
Rich, did you have something to add?
My only thought is, I'll support the bonding. I just know that we need to be very cautious in making sure that we're using these dollars wisely. It's a big investment in my book for our county right now. But I do think it's probably a wise investment.
And I guess I'll add my 2 cents. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I'd be in favor of the $2 million to protect our reserves, but I respect and appreciate all the work that's went into this. And, sometimes you don't win. So with that, I will call the question. All in favor of the 10 million over 20 years, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Roll call. Rich?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I'm a no. Ron?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. All right.
Thank you.
We have another 15 minutes before our next public hearing. Ron, are you ready to pick up on your calendar?
Sure can.
Okay.
Do we need to close this one?
Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Rich. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last county board meeting, we did have the workshop following that meeting. Always good information shared with our department heads at these workshops. Gives us some guidance in making future decisions. On Wednesday, September 4th, Commissioner Pohlmeyer and I attended the Minnesota State Senate hearing on the DHS procurement policy, which affected county-based purchasing, which affects Prime West Health. In the whole process, the Department of Human Services decided that because there was so many points of contention in the decisions that they had made, they basically pulled the procurement, and we will continue with county-based purchasing under the 2019 program rather than initiating a modified program in 2020. So in 2020, things will remain the same. The effects for Prime West are that the 11 expansion counties that really wanted to join Prime West and join us in county-based purchasing will be at this point locked out. They will not be able to join Prime West. We are still in making decisions on the legal process of, do we had filed for mediation. That mediation has been canceled. The attorney that we had retained will have some expenses, but not nearly the expense that we anticipated if we had gone through the full mediation. Prime West is contemplating, there's a lawsuit being filed by other joint powers boards doing county-based purchasing other than Prime West. And Prime West will be discussing whether or not we want to join that lawsuit going forward. It's a long process going through that. And then last week we had not much going on. The Central Minnesota Jobs and Training quarterly Joint Powers Board meeting was on Friday, September 13th over at Monticello. There again, when the economy is good, there's not as much demand for the services of Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, so we are kind of redeveloping and redeploying how our resources are utilized. And there are events coming up in October. There's a special program on how to engage retirees to get them back into the workforce. With the labor shortages, there's been discussion about the barriers to senior citizens and retirees rejoining the workforce and at the same time increasing their tax liability. So we're having a workshop, or not a workshop, but a seminar on that process. Also on Friday, September 13th, we had the ribbon cutting at the Dakota Trail in Lester Prairie. It's a nice group of people came out on a kind of windy, cool day, but the trail looks to be in excellent condition. It's our link from Lester Prairie and McLeod County into the Dakota Rail Trail that extends all the way into Wayzata. So it's a nice paved trail from Lester Prairie to Wayzata, and several folks have commented that they've seen the increased utilization, and they're very appreciative of having that project in place. Then on yesterday, the 16th, we had the JD 15 Meeker McLeod informational meeting on redetermination of benefits. As Commissioner Nagel and Pohlmeyer alluded to, it's a small system. The watershed breaks in two directions. One portion drains directly into McLeod County. The other one crosses over into Meeker County and drains into Lake Byron up there. So we're going to have a follow-up meeting. The landowners, a few of them attended. I think there are more that would attend if we were going to make some redetermination decisions regarding whether we split the system or not. But as the
viewer said, it's one of the smallest systems they've seen with, you know, two different ditches going in the same system. But that's it, Mr. Chair.
All right, Doug?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last board meeting, we had the workshop after our meeting. I also, on the 15th, did an interview with our administrative staff and Jacob from the Chronicle on our budget-related items and sales tax. I also, it was said here earlier, between Mother Nature and the budgets, my week was, I have piles of papers in my office and lots of phone calls on why water isn't going faster than it is. So I've been working quite a bit with landowners on the different ditches, and the contractors are all falling behind, and things are just not moving. I was hoping for a dry fall, and it didn't really work out. But I also, on the 9th, I had the SWCD meeting, board meeting that I attended with, being we're in joint powers now, it's kind of interesting to put these things together. I think along with a lot of other things we're doing, we're all our different agencies and the county are going to have to work together. The costs of everything are absolutely, they're through the roof, and that I think that's our biggest problem is just getting things done at the cost today are very, very difficult. I also had a department head meeting on the 10th. That was followed by the transportation study for Glencoe. That's moving along. A lot of bureaucracy, at lack of a better word, through the state, that different things that have to be done and public input. So that's also moving forward with a open house, I think, on September 25th. Is that right, John? I think so. On Monday, okay. So watch their papers for that. I think they sent out an invite too, so people around Glencoe need to watch for that. Paul already alluded to the JD18 meeting on what we're doing up there, combining several ditches. I also attended a Farm Bureau annual meeting on the 10th, along with Commissioner Szymanski. So that's where my brain is going today, I'll tell you. But then I also attended on the 12th the Helen Township board meeting, which had to do with ditches and paying for crossings. And we also talked a little bit about the Diamond Avenue Road and how to handle that. On the 13th, I did the JD 19A meeting up at the North Complex. I guess I just a little bit of a comment. It's not easy to do this, and the other commissioners alluded to it already, that it's hard to not combine all this. The budget committee, we've worked hard, and one thing plays off the other, so it's hard to leave anything out. But I think we have a duty in the county to make an investment in our county. If we're sitting right out of the metropolitan area, and if we don't do things that, there's been a lot of things kicked down the road, lack of a better word, for a while, and now to play catch up is not cheap. I look at these. I get out the papers and I look through the costs of building a mile of road, or doing an improvement on a drainage system. The costs are astronomical for an old guy, and I think probably for young guys. But that, I think, is our bigger problem. But we have a duty to take care of this. Just because the state and the feds mess us up and mandate a lot of spending to us, and we try to balance our budgets at the detriment of the county, isn't always a good thing to do. I mean, we have to balance it out some way. So thank you for that. That brings me to today.
Mr. Chair, if I might?
Yes.
If you can go back to item B. There's been 10 pay periods since he started doing the extra work. So if you want to raise his pay for $200 per pay period for the next 10 pay periods, and then $100 thereafter, you would accomplish the same thing and not force a further delay of this. If you want to delay it, that's fine.
All right, give me those numbers again, please.
It would be $200 a month per pay period for the next 10 pay periods, and $100 per month each pay period thereafter, so long as he has the additional duties.
Sheila, any comment on that? Are you okay with it?
Without looking at all the pay period, I'd prefer to bring it back next
Okay, that's
board
fine.
meeting, just to make sure that it's all,
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. All right, we still have 5 minutes, and I'm running out of filler, so we'll take a 5-minute recess and start promptly at 10 o'clock with our next public hearing.
Was there the engineer in Crow Wing County, the first person that did a project for?
out of anything. Just stick around. Just live with it. Okay. That's good.
I'll call the board meeting back to order. We are now at our 10 o'clock public hearing. Is there a motion to open that hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer, second by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, under the public hearing, item A is the McLeod County Board of Commissioners will conduct a public hearing. Consider the implementation of a 0.5% local option sales tax for transportation. All right, John, do you have a presentation?
Good morning. Yes, I put together some background information regarding some of the components of the sales tax, as well as kind of current status of some highway information.
Fix that cord, John. Adjust the cord on the side. That seemed to fix it last time.
Yeah.
Do you want my computer, John?
You need Liz to put her magic hands on there
It's
again.
not the computer, I don't think.
Somebody cannot stand that.
Should be picking it up.
We've got the same picture.
We'll reboot the projector, see if that picks it up.
Are we considering dropping it down for 20? Or are we gonna use that level of property tax or more? It's still left 100%. Yeah, page 99. Okay.
Usually these spheres are still best of overflow.
John, if need be, we have it in the packet down there.
Pardon?
If need be, we do have a copy of your presentation in the packet, so we would be able to show it to the people attending.
Yeah, it seems like the projector's not wanting to turn back on.
It might
One
be-
thing that lost can't go toward is projectors, so.
All right, this is unfortunate, but we can continue. The packets are printed, it is online right now. So if we can let Liz maybe keep working on that, and we'll get started, okay?
Okay, so,
I don't know if somebody else needs to pick up the minutes, okay?
yeah, so what, first slide is, talks about our state aid system. We have our highway system. We have 253 miles of county state aid highway. 202 of those miles are bituminous, 51 of those are concrete. And those are the miles that we get state aid reimbursement from. That's primarily funded by the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund. We have 139 miles of straight county road. 41 of those are bituminous, 98 miles are gravel. And those are primarily funded by local money such as the property tax levy and formerly the wheelage tax. Next slide is a breakdown of how we get our county state aid highway funding. That's the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund statewide. Fuel tax, gas tax goes into that, license tab fees, and then motor vehicle sales tax goes into that fund. Of that fund is broken down between trunk highways, which are the MnDOT roads, county state aid highways, and municipal state aid highways, which are cities over 5,000 have municipal state aid highways. Breaking that down, the whole statewide county state aid system is about $616 million, and McLeod's portion of that for 2019 was around $5.3 million. How that money is allocated 60% based on construction and 40% to maintenance. So for McLeod in 2019, we had $3.2 million in construction and $2.1 in maintenance.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
John, is this a state-determined allocation, or does your department determine that
So
allocation?
that is a statewide allocation that's based on a statewide formula for all 87 counties. We're all on the same playing field.
Okay, so the state is telling us 40% of that funding has to be used
Yes,
for
that's
maintenance
set,
process.
that's set in statute even. The
It is.
60%, 40% split.
All right, thank you.
Next graphic, it should say, just talks about our county state highway construction and maintenance funding history. Basically, in 2010, we're around 3.2 million up to last couple of years in 18 and 19 have been flat around that 5.3 million. County, looks like we got potential projector coming back up. Would you like to just back up and go over that again or should I just keep going?
Let's see if you get the first slide.
Should pick it up.
There it is.
Oh, we have it on ours. They don't have it here. There it is.
Okay,
Thank you, Mark.
so there's a slide breaking down our state aid allocation, 5.3 million. Next slide, like I spoke about, state aid, county state aid construction and maintenance funding from 2010 all the way to 19. Last couple of years have been flat. County construction maintenance and funding history, which is primarily funded by the property tax levy, and then a number of years of the wheelage, shows you where that's been at. As 19, just over 4 million. Federal construction is not on an annual basis. That is a process we work with our local area transportation partnership. That's a group. There's 8 ATPs around the state, and that's governed a lot by MnDOT. And our cities and counties in our district get together and submit projects for federal funding, various types of projects. So total construction and maintenance funding history, counting property tax, wheelage, state aid, federal aid, and bonding. You can see varies over the years, a lot of it depending on project load, depending on the funding that we receive and so forth. So we'll talk a little bit about our pavement condition. How do we get our pavement condition? One thing we get from MnDOT, who does it statewide in all the counties and trunk highways, is their MnDOT pathway van, they call it. That picks up ride data, surface rating, pavement quality we get out of that, ride quality. Also, we do, a lot of times before our construction project, we'll go out and core the roads and see what kind of condition we have on the pavement and to consider the different fixes. What we get out of the MnDOT condition rating, ride quality, like I mentioned, is a measure of the roughness. The surface rating is the surface distress, and then overall pavement quality index and the various indexes of those. So how do we stack up? We do get data we have been getting it every 4 years now. Starting in 19, it's going to be every 2 years now. MnDOT's going to be covering the road systems. They picked up an additional van for the county system, but kind of looking at the screen up there since 2007, the very poor roads, how they've been faring, up to very good roads. Ride quality wise, the fair roads have been getting better, and the good roads are going down a little bit, and the very good roads are up a little bit, but 15 to 19, you can see those went down. So it pays to keep up with the investment to keep those up. Surface rating, that's the cracks you see, surface distress index, poor, fair, and good. Poors have been going down, fairs have been going up, good have been going up a little bit. They've kind of went down from 15 to 19. Again, related how much work you do, how much you are fixing them. And then overall pavement quality. And similar, very poor to very good. Shows you what's going on since 07 on that. But that gives us an indication of our system. It certainly isn't the silver bullet we look at for all the fixes when we program them and everything, but it's an indication. So what does this fixes cost? Seal coat on the low end, typically around 19,000 a mile, gives us 5 to 7 years. Bituminous overlay, 120,000, so forth and so on, all the way up to when we look at new construction. Rural reconstruction, similar to the projects we did this summer on County Road 3 and 15, those are running about $1.5 million a mile to build. You get into town, you're upwards of $3 million to do that. Concrete overlay, we've done a couple of those last couple of years, running about $600,000 a mile if we put on a paved shoulder. A couple examples of what those look like. This is in 2016, County Road 11. That was from Trunk Highway 22 over to County Road 2. That was re-reclamation and bituminous paving basically ground up the surface of the road, put on a new bituminous surface. That's a similar project we're doing this summer, southwest of Hutchinson, over into Renville County on County State Aid Highway 8. But that particular project on the screen was about 6 miles in length and 101.4 million for that project, so about 235,000 a mile. Get into projects like a concrete overlay, County Road 3, west of Glencoe. That was in 2017. That was 6.4 miles, and that was $3.66 million, so about $570,000 a mile for that road, if you've been on that one. And then I just mentioned the reconstruction projects last couple of years. This one's County Road 3 from 9 over to Carver County. That was 1.7 miles. The right-of-way alone on that was about $85,000 a mile for right-of-way. That's going from typically from our 33-foot right-of-way for the most part on the old roads out to 60 feet. And then the construction cost on that's about 1.25 million, 1.26 million a mile for that. So no total reconstruction. Funding gap. How we look at that, so our state aid, part of the construction money is allocated out to us, the state aid construction based on construction needs of the counties, and they're saying the life expectancy of a road is 60 years. If we look at our paved system, this counts our paved miles, all paved miles, we've got about 293. So if you kind of go by that rule of thumb, we should be reconstructing, not just rehabilitating, but reconstructing 4.9 miles a year. Looking at that average cost of 1.5 million a mile, if you do the math, we're about $7 million a year just for reconstruction of roads. And like you saw previously, our current state aid construction allocation is 3.2 million. And that's just construction needs. That doesn't account maintenance, our guys' maintenance patching, shouldering, seal coating, striping, and so forth. Looking at our 10-year average spending this is from 2018 back. We're about $5 million. State aid on average about 2.4, federal aid $500,000, and county money $2.1 million. And that's most of the projects for bridges, striping, safety, basically a lot of construction projects except maintenance. Forest is in-house projects. So what kind of reconstruction needs are out there? Currently we have probably over 150 miles of roads that are narrow, substandard, the steep inslopes, and just using 1.5 in those alone, that's about $225 million in roads. And a list of roads up there in front of you, that's just an example. There's a whole other list that goes with that, but gives you an idea of kind of what, if you look at different roads and what we're looking at for costs. And then that's all paved roads. That doesn't include gravel, which we have about 100 miles of gravel roads still. So what can we do for funding, right? We can work with legislators to increase the highway user fund, which hasn't been that successful in the past. Like the other funding mechanisms you saw for the counties, property tax levy is the primary source. Wheelage is a source. We elected to go away from that. And then, of course, what we're pretty much here for is local option sales tax as an option. A little background on the local option sales tax for transportation. 2013, the legislature provided the funding option to counties for specific transportation projects as well as transit projects. The statute authorizes the counties to enact up to 0.5% sales tax on retail sales. There's also a provision where we could look at a $20 excise tax on retail sales of vehicles. But basically, it's a tool that the counties control 100% of the revenue. It's not dictated or driven by the state or that. Some of the advantages to the transportation sales tax, we don't just have McLeod County residents using our system to come through the county and shop and travel through and so forth. There's others that are outside the county, help minimize the burden of our local property owners. And it's a funding mechanism based on non-essential purchases, which is per the statute, it's food, clothing, ag product items. Items like, I don't believe items such as implements of husbandry and so forth, I don't believe those are taxed. And with what is that, how does that work out to as far as how much in county and out of county? As you previously saw on the board agenda, we hired the U of M to do analysis of that. Actually, Ryan Pesh is here today. He's going to give a quick overview of the process they went through to do the sales tax comparison between resident and non-resident. So, real quick.
Morning.
Well, greetings from Otter Tail County. So I'll talk a little bit kind of about how we did this, so you guys are comfortable with what's in the analysis, and it's in your packet before you. And then I'll just kind of give the major headline about the findings, not go into any kind of real detail. And if you have any questions, I'm certainly here to, that's why I'm here. So you can ask me any questions. So a few points. First and foremost, my shop and extension. We work in community and economic development. For about 15 years, we've been doing retail trade analysis. So we take sales tax data to take a look at the strength of a community's shopping, whether it's a city or a county. Ever since, for the last 3 years, we've done well over a dozen of these local option sales tax analyses for a number of local governments, just because it's really on the docket in terms of an opportunity for local units of government in terms of raising revenue. For myself, I just want to be clear, I have no horse in this game. This is primarily here for context for you to make a decision about the local option sales tax. It matters not to me whether or not you pass it or not. My main job in doing this analysis is just to do the numbers right? Point two is that this is based on state sales tax data. So if there's any business within your county's borders that pay sales tax to the state, that's collected by revenue at the county basis and the city basis, and that's what I use for analysis. In terms of doing analysis, it's great data. It's very good data. It's not some estimate from census, it's actual sales tax data. And then lastly, just kind of how we do this, basically what I do is I do an estimate of potential sales. We know very well how much people spend per person in the state of Minnesota on everything from dining to general merchandise and the like. I take that times the population of the county, times the index of income, adjusting for income a little bit, and that's how we get a potential sales. And then what we do is we compare that to actual sales that were reported by your businesses through the Department of Revenue. And so one example would be if it was dining, my potential sales might be $5 million in sales we would expect. If there's $10 million in sales, there's very clear evidence that people are in shopping in McLeod County, right? Because you obviously have a lot more sales than anybody would expect, unless you guys eat a heck of a lot more than everybody else in the state of Minnesota, which is probably unlikely, right? I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's kind of my lame example. So if, basically I do that for all categories that we have sales tax data for. And so the major headlines, this is how it breaks down. Basically, 35% of taxable sales in your county, I estimate, are purchases by non-residents, 65% by residents. In consultation with the Department of Revenue, they estimate that your total tax proceeds would be about $1.8 million annually. And you can see there how it breaks down residents versus non-residents, 35% non-residents, 65% residents. So essentially, for every $3 that you're bringing in on this tax, about $1 is paid. I estimate about $1 is paid by non-McLeod County residents. So that's the main headline. If you have any kind of questions about how I did that, or.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. So keep rolling here. So what does that mean, a potential sales tax with, or potential changes with the sales tax? You know, in 2020, we're looking at $3.8 million levy is what the portion we would get for levy funds. Put the sales tax on top of that. Initial estimates, we've heard 1.9, so we show 1.9, so 1.8, 1.9. On top of that, what would it look like without? You know, if we just had to use our increased property tax for the budget for 2020. Now, there's options to cut projects and so forth, but you saw how we're falling behind in some of those as well. So I think the desire is to keep the projects rolling. But if you look at just levy money, we're looking at a $5.7 million and levy that goes into the highway budget for that if you didn't have the sales tax. Other counties are certainly doing it. This is data from April of 2019. Kind of shows you which counties are, the ones in the green are using wheelage. The ones in blue are doing the half-cent sales tax option. Ones in purple initiated the 0.25%, and then the ones you see that are blue and green, or blue and green, yeah, just blue and green looks like. Those are doing both, using the wheelage as well as the sales tax. And then the ones in white have not implemented any of those tools. So part of the what you have to do for the sales tax for transportation implementation is come up with a project list. You know, we looked at our system, and this certainly isn't all inclusive of the need out there. If you don't see roads on here, they've most likely recently been reconstructed, or they're in the pipeline potentially for other funding, or those are roads that we could potentially handle with other funding sources. But we broke it down into gravel road upgrades, major pavement rehabilitation, rural reconstruction, which are the County Road 3s and 15s we just did, municipal reconstruction through towns, and new construction would be brand new alignments, like we're looking at potentially a connection of 5 over to 9, or County Road 1 over to 9 in Winsted off of County Road 5, Northeast Hutchinson Ring Road that we've talked about between Highway 15 and Highway 7. But basically, we got on the list, we have about 119 miles of road with using those estimates is around $107 million of projects. Look at a map, it's kind of how they're laid out. Colors are a little tough to see, but spread out through the county a little bit. So what's the steps for the implementation? Establish a plan, which you just saw, a list of the projects. Hold a public hearing, and then the county board authorizes the implementation via resolution. That's the point we're at today. And then the steps after that, we got to notify the Commissioner of Revenue, and then we got agreements with the Department of Revenue, and work with our county auditor, treasurer, to work with the revenue and get that set up. And these are the timelines to do these. If we do the implementation today, that's the timeline to have it implemented in time for the first of the year, 2020. And another thing, if we can do this quarterly, is when you can implement the tax on a quarterly basis. That's all I have for the presentation.
Okay. We'll start with the board. Any comments or questions on the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll ask John the same question I asked Colleen, and that is the Department of Revenue. John, are you aware of how often they reimburse the county for the revenue collected?
Yeah, I spoke with some other engineers that have this in place, and they said monthly, and then they do corrections within the month to dial it in tighter, but it's monthly reimbursement.
Okay, thank you.
I think we've had a fair amount of discussion already, because it kind of blends into our other financing discussion that we've had here today. We've made every effort to be very transparent of our intentions, as we started over a month ago by working with newspapers. We've had this information on our website. It's been in the workshops. We wanted people to talk about this and to give us our feedback. And in general, the feedback that I've received is positive. I think people understand that the transportation dollars need to come from somewhere. I appreciate good roads, but it is the overall price tag that is always hard to swallow. The report that had what these road projects actually cost is really a good part to talk about today, so that people can see what the dollar figures are when we start to rebuild roads with overlays or new construction. With only just a few miles of roads, it goes from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions to try and make a difference, and that's just what it takes with today's values and prices. And the only way to get forward within the county's 400 miles of transportation is to have a greater investment. And one of the tools also added within this is, instead of going to the levy for an increase in projects costs. We're approaching the sales tax that we can reduce that levy burden, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. But this is part of what Budget Committee's been working on for quite some time, and it's something that we've discussed throughout the day here as we've sat here. It is a tool that was provided to the counties to aid in the funding of the transportation system, and it's time that we see it here as part of this package deal that we've assembled today between the bonding and levy and finding a way to fund the transportation system. So.
Okay. Anything else to the board before I open it up to the public? If members of the public wish to address the board, now is the time. Please come up, give your name, and remember the microphones are sensitive, so you got to talk pretty directly into them. It's difficult for us to hear if you don't do that. So if there's anybody for the public wishes to address the board, please come to the podium. Morning, sir.
This is my first time here, so.
Okay, so again, pull those mics towards you so we can hear you. Give us your name and go ahead and.
My name's James Steinmacher from Stewart, Minnesota, Collins Township. I'm here to address the sales tax and the impact one might have on McLeod County.
All right.
First of all, the citizens of McLeod County got the same problems as you guys got. Rising costs of households and stagnant income. And the county from 2016 to 2020, their budget includes this, the 2020 was going to be a 16% increase. You're going to have a tax increase of 35% if that goes through on the property tax. And it's basically out of control, the way it's spending and whatever you guys are doing, I don't know. But what you got here, you got a $3.8 billion tax value or tax base or market value, and your county capacity is only $38 million. That's way too small for what you guys are trying to do, the tax capacity. And as far as I'm concerned, and this is my first time looking at this, the tax capacity only should be used for operating the county, not for big projects, not for major projects. You should be using the market value for that. And that throws everything out of whack. Because what's going to happen is that with this, let's see here, I'm going off my notes again, but let's see, small. Yeah, okay. Okay, here's another thing that, according to the statistics, McLeod, Renville, and Sibley County, according to the data, got the same for the family income. The income is about the same. But your budgets are $15 to $21 million more than these other budgets. And let's see. Okay, I got this from Minnesota Sales and Usage Tax Statistics of 2016. They took $25.5 million out of McLeod County for sales tax, okay? You put that to your budget of $61 million, what gets pulled out for the cities and townships and the county, and then you add your 1.8 million and half a percent what Hutch got, you're pushing close to 90 million. And I don't know, you know what the GMP is in McLeod County? No, you don't either. National, what the, yeah, I looked and I can't find it. Okay, I don't either, but that's important. Anybody who ever finds them figures, that's important to know. But what I'm getting at is that the most important thing when you go to these studies, what retail sales are in the community is what's taxed on, $1.4 billion. And those retailers need to be protected because what's happening now is that it's not the old mom and pop shop no more. We got corporate America and we got franchises. And what they do is they look at the quarterly reports on how the sales and revenue and the trend. And what happens is they will close their shop. If they don't have progressive, the stockholders don't make the profits, it's done. The store will be closed, the jobs are gone, and you've got a challenge of losing your market value, too. So, I'm way ahead of myself, but, and here's another thing you guys never consider. I look back, you guys only had 8% correction in your market value, which is pretty good, you know, from 2000 on. But what happens when you get a 15 to 25% correction in your market value? And you start spending all this money on major projects, what should be put against the market value? There'll be no tax capacity left to pay your bills. This is a problem. And this needs to be addressed. Because what happens is if you run out of money because you start using the public or putting it on the market, you're going to have to go to junk bonds to pay your bills. When you get down to 15 to 25 reduction in that your tax value, you could be in trouble. And that's things you got to look at before you pass a 0.5%, because the families out here don't have any more money. When you look at what people are making in this county, it's not that much. And the average study, what I've read, is $1,250 for house payments, $450 for maintenance of a house a month, and then you got the car payments, and by the time they get their gross and get the taxes, they don't have that much to live on. So those are things you got to consider. And let's see what else I got here. And this is what kind of bothers me about this board, is that, does anybody object to anything on this board? Everybody votes 5 yes, no no's.
You weren't here earlier then.
I don't know. I mean, that's what I read in the paper, so I don't know. You know what I mean? That's what I see. But I hope that there's, you really consider it. And I would prefer you guys would vote no on this, because the taxpayers got enough, and 90 million is coming out of this county just because, well, it'd be, like 28 million of sales tax. That's a lot of money. And it ends up on the bottom line of retail business. So that's something to consider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. It's difficult to process all those numbers, but you can have a seat. You can have a seat if you want. But Colleen, are you able to address any of those concerns he had regarding the numbers that came up?
Yeah, our net tax capacity for 2020 is actually 40,670,000, not 38. And then the 0.5%, what that's gonna be is, so if you spend $100, it's gonna be 50 cents. And in my opinion, fixing the roads is gonna bring more people into these mom and pop shops, because they're gonna wanna travel on our roads if we have good roads to get here. And if you have a $100 meal and it's only 50 cents extra, I guess, to me, I'd rather pay it that way than in my property taxes.
All right. Anyone else wish to address the board? Come back up to the mic then.
What she's saying,
You gotta come to the mic, sir. Nobody's gonna hear you.
what she's saying is true. It's 50 cents on $100. But it's psychological. You're at 6.879, I think. You add another 0.5%, and then Hutchinson's on there. You're close to 8%. And people will look at their bill. It's psychological. It has nothing to do with money. It's psychological. You're going to run into a problem. Because I'll tell you a little story. When Applebee's first came in there, in Hutchinson, and I never knew it. I walked in there, we sat down at the booths, and here was a 9% sales tax. I asked what this is all about. I thought maybe it was for some improvement for the city or something, you know, but it was the liquor tax, and I didn't know that. And, see what I mean? You'll start questioning. Once you get close, it's psychological. People will look at it. And she's right about the 50 cents. But I'll guarantee you, people will look at that close to 8%. And that's the problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Doug?
Couple of things in there that I kind of need to comment on. Some of it is it wasn't addressed today. If you're talking about the levy, you can back off to 2011, and the board at that time did a reduction in the levy at 2.93%. And then in 2012, 13, 14, and 15, they did a 0%. And then from there on, 16, it went 2.73, 5, 7, and we're talking about what we're doing today. We took off the wheelage tax because, in my opinion only, that it was a regressive tax. Only people paying for that was the person that had the vehicle. The sales tax, people that, if you want to use Hutchinson for an example, they only have roads going into Hutchinson. So people that live in town and don't drive, or ride a bicycle, or do whatever, this 0.5% sales tax is paid also by them because they benefit from everything coming in by truck or what have you. The psychological part, I can't argue that. If I argued psychological part, I'd have to go out behind the barn because the federal government and the state has no. I mean, they're way out of line, and we've been. When I just read off these figures, the past boards have balanced at a cost to the county, in my opinion. Again, all these mandated costs that are coming from the state and the feds. I mean, we can't just let our stuff. My constituents. We can't add more levy to build roads. I mean, that's your alternative to the sales tax. And actually for property owners, it's that much worse. I don't like the swing right now between homes and residents and farms, but that's been going on for 100 years, but it bounces back and forth. And you ran some figures by me on the sales, or on the levy increase, and I don't know if you were exactly correct. With the sales tax, if that's implemented, the levy would be a projected levy would be 9.15. And I don't know if you use the proper figures there, and that could be in your brain, you could vary from that, but do we want to tap into our reserves? Our reserves are now where they need to be. We got 6. Colleen can do a better job of articulate this than I can, but we have to, by statute, have to keep operating funds for 6 months. We have them now. Do you really want to deplete them to balance on their? I'm not necessarily in favor of that, but.
And
that's all I've got for right now.
That's not a statutory requirement, but it's a recommendation of the state auditor.
Ron?
Mr. Chair, and not related to this individual's testimony, but I did hear from some of the people that operate vehicles on our county roads and highways, and the opinion of this one individual was that we would gladly pay more tax to have good roads rather than to have to repair our cars and our vehicles, our heavy trucks, because they have to run down, rough and, outdated roads. And so if you look at it in terms of, household income, if you spend less on your vehicle repairs but have a better road because of the sales tax, I think there's an advantage there that, if you calculate it on a per individual, per year basis, what we will pay in additional sales tax is probably very small compared to the cost of repairing vehicles today. So,
Mr. Chair, it was brought up to compare McLeod County to our neighbors, and we need to be very careful how we do that. Sibley County and Renville County are completely different population centers than what McLeod County is. And we have that packet available at our TNT meeting in December where we compare ourselves to our neighbors and to counties of similar population. And that's really where we need to compare ourselves, is counties like Mauer, others that are kind of in that mid-30s for population. And then we tabulate. This is one of those deals where we can sit here and we can wrestle numbers to mean one thing or the other all day long, quite honestly. But when we look at the budgets of some of our neighbors that are not of similar population, because the county budgets are so contingent on how many people you are asked to provide services for, it gets to be tough to compare yourself to a county of half the population. Counties like Sibley and Renville County on a per capita scale are, especially on Renville, I remember, is one of the highest taxed in terms of per capita in the state. And when we run that report, I believe we're like 23 or 25. And so it all depends on what set of numbers you want to use in order to argue one point or the other. And I think we're here today. I don't know how many of us are really jumping for joy that this is where it's come, but we need to fund the county operations somehow. We need to address roads, and that is something that has been pushed. That can has been kicked a long time as far as additional levy dollars. Yes, it was brought up in Mr. Brunkhorst's report. We can look for state dollars, federal dollars. So is everybody else. They always come with strings attached. Here we have control over how those projects are handled, how they are bid, the contractors that are chosen. I would hope that we will have an opportunity to look at some of those projects to get done. The sales tax, when we first brought wheelage sales tax up a number of years ago, none of us had the stomach to even go there. But by split vote, we did accept the wheelage. It was maybe about 40% of the money at that time. Now we're here today, we completely flipped that over. We've removed the wheelage. We're looking at the sales tax at the same time as we're using that highway funding to reduce the needs of the highway department from levy dollars. I don't know of any other way to cut this up in order to get anything done in terms of transportation and to manage levy increases at the same time. So I think we're at the point where we need to look at this as a management tool to look at the finances of the county.
All right, I'll just turn it back over to the public. Steve, did you want to address the board? Sorry. You're fine. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Steve Reiner, rural Hutchinson. You all know me. I wasn't gonna speak. I wasn't even gonna come. Just sitting, thinking of a few things, and I know I'll forget. I'm really good in the tractor cab. I can rattle it off.
Know that, yep.
One question, could you initiate another half-cent for a different department?
I think it's all highway, but can somebody help with that?
The only local sales tax option that the counties have right now is 1/2 cent for transportation purposes only, so it's roads. The legislature has the authority to change that authority, but we don't.
Okay.
So we cannot start our own.
So okay, that would be a slippery slope. All of a sudden, every department wants some more. First thing I'd quickly like to address is a lot of people think that agriculture doesn't pay hardly any sales tax, that we're exempt from everything, when in reality, we're not that exempt from very many things. Machinery, that kind of stuff, but you go to Runnings and it's a very limited amount of things that go by DeWalt drill, we go by tools. So small businesses and agriculture probably are going to make up the greatest portion of this sales tax. because clothing's not, or clothing's exempt, excuse me. Food, I'm not sure about Applebee's and that kind of stuff, but when you think about rural versus city, the rural, or I shouldn't say rural, business owners, whether it's small business or agriculture, are going to pay an awful lot of this sales tax. So that's, and right now, I don't need to tell you that the rural economy is very tough right now, and every penny counts. I have a lot of wants and needs. I don't get many of the wants. Right now, we're doing the needs, and I think this county needs to consider that also. I think there's been an awful lot of wants taken care of, and maybe we need to just narrow back to the needs. I don't disagree that we need to improve a lot of roads, but I think we need to look at all projects, not just highway department projects, a little closer with the wants and needs, and keep in mind where this tax really will come from. We also have schools that we're paying for, and potentially another one over in Hutchinson, I think, is coming up for vote. So I imagine everybody's trying to jockey to get theirs in first, but just keep that in mind, if you would. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Brian, I have a question for you on your report. On page 150, you have, excuse me, on our packet is 150. I got to flip through here. I should have brought a paper copy. You have subtotals in there referencing 2017.
This page?
That's the one.
Yeah.
The question was the split, or where does the money come from? Is that identical to what we would see for revenue to come into this, where you have ag, utilities, construction, manufacturing, wholesale? And I should have brought my paper copy, but I just do the one on the screen. Above that, you have everything broke down more. But is this an accurate source in proportion of what we would see or not?
Yeah.
Prior to your answering that, let's let Mr. Bronkhorst
Yeah,
get this correct slide.
Nope, we'll keep going.
There.
This page, yep, one. That page?
That one.
Yep.
That one. You've got it. Yep. Subtotals up there. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, to put into context, hey, this is 2017 data from the Department of Revenue. So I'm not listing here gross sales, only the taxable sales.
Yep.
The disparity between gross sales and taxable for agriculture and utilities, they vary, right? But this would be quite similar. If I pointed you to, just to kind of the overall trend, this is one subcategory of all the taxable sales. There, on what's my page 5, there's this overall trend of taxable sales, right?
Okay.
Can you go to that, Jen?
That's page 5. It's kind of towards the beginning. There we go.
Thank you.
So that's kind of the big picture about where your taxable sales have gone in the last 5 years, if you will. So all those categories that you were looking at there, agriculture, construction, utilities, are all subcategories of this overall large bar here in 2017. And you have the data for what are the taxable sales category by category by category.
Yep.
You saw agriculture there was 2 million,
2 million,
utilities
yep.
is 30 odd million.
So by this bar graph, you're showing that a dramatic increase in commerce from as we go from 13 to 17.
Yeah, you definitely saw a jump from 2016 to 17 there. What we do see is there is a trend, to put it in the context for the state as a whole. Taxable sales have certainly they kind of tick up each year as a whole.
When the economy
is good. So that change that you see from 2013 to 16 probably is along the lines of what we see for the whole state. But from 2016 to 2017, you sort of outperform the state, if you will.
Okay.
Right? There's sort of a natural growth in terms of taxable sales. I don't know, as we as consumers, we keep finding more ways of spending money, apparently.
Yep. So on the subtotal chart, if a person were to assemble a pie chart of where the taxable sales comes from,
oh, yeah.
then that would be where that data would come from, where the ag was $2 million and approximately 70% of that assumed to be non-county sources, and then so forth. You got
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, and so, the context is, if you're at 370 million in terms of taxable sales, ag is 2 divided by 370.
Yep.
That's the percentage of agricultural ag is taxable sales. And you can do that with any of the categories throughout the report.
Utilities, very high. Construction, 3 times more than the ag. Manufacturing, another high one. Wholesale goods, transportation, undesignated, so forth. And that would make up that total of $94 million.
Yeah. Your real big categories, general merchandise and building materials are really big.
Yep.
So if you're going to point to what's a large contributor to your sales tax base, if you want to think of it that way, building materials is very large, $61 million in taxable sales.
Yep.
And then if we get to general merchandise are all essentially kind of big boxy kind of stores, right? Every Target and Walmart and such. They're the 2 largest retail. The big general merchandise is $53 million in taxable sales. These ones are not the non-retail that I'm unable to do a potential sales for because it's kind of out of my purview. But those are their actual sales from 2017.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, anyone else from the public wish to address the board? Any questions from the board regarding this issue for?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I guess I'll weigh in. I haven't said a whole lot. I think we've got a couple problems here. Number one is there are a certain amount of our roads that are deteriorating and we need to do something with those. That's problem number one. Problem number two is I don't think really any of us are in the market to raid people's pocketbooks, if you want to put it that way. We're not doing that. We're trying to find realistic solutions to a very difficult problem of keeping our roads up to par so the safety and everything of the people is where we need to be. And I think those are the tough questions that we're trying to answer. This sales tax option does give us a tool if we want to use it, and we're just that's some of the things that we've been weighing through the last couple months of listening from the budget committee and everything else on trying to figure out what options are available, which ones might work, which ones might not work. So that's where I am.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yes, Mike.
One of the issues that was just brought up by Commissioner Pohlmiller was the safety part. And since I came here back in '82, there has been a dramatic change in the safety of our county roads, and that is because of the reconstruction. What you see in those reconstruction projects is that instead of having very steep in slopes and virtually no shoulder, we now have 4-foot or 6-foot shoulders and a gradual in slope so that when vehicles go off of the road, that they don't flip over and kill the people that are inside there. When I started back in the early 80s, and I hate to go back there, but our death rate, number of people that we killed on our roads each year, or that killed themselves on our roads, was between 950 and 1,000. It got as low as 350 about 3 or 4 years ago. And unfortunately, that trend is going the other way. But safety is one of the costs that you are paying for out of these road construction projects. And if you want to drive on a road like County Road 16 north of Silver Lake, if you want to, there are countless other ones too. They still have those steep inslopes. And the people that are dying in those crashes are our young, inexperienced drivers. And every year around prom time, we hear about 2 or 3 crashes where teenagers are killed. A part of it is because they're out on the rural parts where we don't have improved roads, and we haven't taken the safety measures that are necessary. But it's expensive, And the choice is, do you spend the money, or do you have the car repairs, the deaths, and those issues? It's not an easy choice.
Doug, did you have something?
Yeah, just a couple of things I did have. A couple of things I did have that I forgot to bring up before. I don't like to get the county. In fact, I don't want to at all, but it's something that I consider because I'm a commissioner on the eastern side of the county. I don't want the county split in two parts. I mean, I don't want a Hutch-Blanco, but I do want to know that, or take into consideration that the eastern part of McLeod County sits right on the metropolitan area. And things that I have working with 212 and some other safety things with highways, I've talked to a lot of people in Carver and Wright County, and mainly Carver, that I can quote. I've done some studies. Obviously, the percentage, when you start looking at 9% or 15%, that sounds terrible, and it is. But you go into the Wright and Carver counties, you know, they can do a 0.5% or 1% and generate more money than we can with 15%. And so it's real deceiving on the percentage part of it. And I did an unscientific study on my own. My daughter lives in Carver County, so I looked at some residential homes, and I've said this before, and actually it goes into the agricultural properties too. There's not a lot left in those counties. But we're half here in McLeod County. We're half of what the cost of taxes are into the Wright and Carver counties. Obviously, they have school bonds too, so that part of it varies. But I mean, 10 years ago, I would have had to pinch myself to say economic development, but there's a need for, when I talk to people, why aren't you building your home in McLeod County? They want better roads. You talk to the townships, they cannot afford to build a road. I mean, they want them to, back to our point of safety, they want them built to county standards because of safety, and that's extremely cost. The costs are so high. So, I mean, I just was at a township meeting trying to work out a deal with our road. Well, it's just, for either one of the entities, it's going to cost the taxpayer a lot of money. And I talked to several farmers coming back to the cost of fixing semis. Mr. Reiner, I know, drives, he pounds his semis on the road, and some people are in favor of the gas tax because to get better roads. Well, we have more control of that money to fix a road. Obviously, it's not state and federal highways, but we have more control of that money in a sales tax, or, you know, in our local money. So it's not easy for us to do this, but I don't know how to keep up. And the wants and needs was commented on. Believe me, I tear myself apart on wants and needs. It's the old saying, you walk up and knock on the door, and my name is Commissioner Kruger, and I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. You know, that's the quickest way to get a door in your face. But having said that, I mean, our government center, just different projects that we're doing, hopefully at the end of these project periods, we will show some efficiencies. We already are in our departments. So that comment, I just wanted to address that comment. It's not that we take them lightly either. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to first thank Mr. Steinbach and Mr. Reiner for coming in and vetting their concerns today. We've tried to gather data along this road to, I guess no pun intended, but to try and get to this point. If I could summarize their concerns, it's be careful, watch your costs, and are we sure we need to be here? I don't know how many times I've said, but if we get people to behave out there, we could slash millions off the county budget, but it seems like that never grabs on or catches. And so the majority of our bills are for things that we can't help here. We don't need to go into a lengthy discussion on that. But I don't know what else to do at this point to manage the budgets and to achieve the goals of transportation funding that we kind of set forth. We need to get a motion out there, so I'm going to make a motion to approve Resolution 19CB43 for the establishment of a local option sales tax for transportation.
Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kruger. Any discussion on the motion?
Just, can we do that in the form of the open meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
And this would be effective the 1st of January.
Right.
All right, looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer, second by Commissioner Szymanski to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're under County Administration, item A.
I wonder if we can jump right to this one now that we approved it. Actually, the lower one now that we approved the sales tax.
There's no reason to debate that.
We shouldn't be able to, but I can't remember if there's a waiting period or it can be repealed, but I don't think, no, there isn't, so we're okay.
Just go to what it is.
On the bond, so they can't,
Whenever you're ready, I'm sorry.
Okay. So today I'm seeking approval for the 2020 preliminary tax levy. And I just have some talking points that I wanted to talk about first and things that impact the levy. So on the screen you'll see, and I'll scroll down as I go, but personnel costs for 2020 are budgeted at $23,314,730, which is an increase of $679,070 for wages and benefits. McLeod County is currently negotiating with its 8 unions for their 2020 through 2022 labor agreements and anticipates there will be increases to wages and benefits. McLeod County has been a part of a joint powers agreement with Sibley County and Trailblazers to provide health insurance to its employees throughout a self-insured plan. This plan has experienced high claim costs for the past 3 years. In 2019, McLeod County made 2 additional payments totaling $317,850 to replenish the fund and cover claims in excess of premiums paid. For 2020, we are joining the Southwest West Central Insurance Pool. This will be beneficial to the county as it will act like a fully funded insurance plan. But McLeod County is still liable for any run out of insurance claims for our old plan for the end of this year. So that can take up to 6 months into 2020. We'll still be paying those claims off. So we have budgeted an additional $415,000 to cover those costs. Also, there are departments that, the commissioners instructed not to increase levies for the 2020 to the department heads. But there are some costs that are out of the control, such as the court administration has an increase of $152,000 in court-appointed attorney fees. Information technology has an increase of $78,000 in ongoing maintenance agreements. Work comp and property casualty insurance increased by $69,000. And the presidential nomination primary in March of 2020 will increase the election budget by $68,000. Building expenses for utilities and repairs will increase by $40,000. And then, so when you look at those increases, that's $1.5 million just for increases for personnel costs, just for operating budgets. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Next is the budget summary. So this is the proposed budget. This is as it is entered today, before the increase for the sales tax. So we are looking at expenditures of 7.947022 in fund balance, but that is mostly out of the capital projects funds. These are non-levy funds. So you'll see the 7.555000, that is for the government center. And the solid waste fund of 154,424, and special revenue of $3,187. Other than that, we plan to balance our budget. Sorry for going back and forth on here. But this year, we actually budgeted not to use fund balance because we have our fund balance in a good position. So the general fund, we're not using fund balance, the road and bridge, or social services. So our main departments, we're actually levying to cover all of our expenses. The pages to follow are just informational, and they are by each department. I'm not going to go through each of those. The commissioners have seen these numbers in the past. So that is the next several pages, so I'm just going to get through those. Okay, and this is the next thing I wanted to share. I know Doug had already touched on this point, but this shows from 2011 through 2020, the increases to the levy. So in 2011, it was actually an increase to the levy of a decrease, of 2.93, and then it held flat for 4 years. So it has increased, for the last 5 years, but that's mostly just to cover operational costs. So on this sheet, there's 2 options for the levy today, and we do need to pass the preliminary levy. So, and you can't increase the levy past today, you can only decrease it. So there's 2 options there. The first one is the $26,115,000 and 0.55 or 0.95. When we did that budget, it did not account for passing the sales tax. So that came in at 15.48%. And then there's another option for the 2020 of $24,628,317, which is an increase of 8.9%. So these are the 2 options that I've brought forward to be voted on today for a preliminary.
All right, again, we need to set the preliminary budget levy today. It can go down, it cannot go up, and I'm sure we're all hoping it is. I'll throw my thoughts out first after the sales tax discussion and that it passed. I don't think we even need to look at that 15%. I think we need to look at the one on the far right in that 8.9 range. So I'll open it up to the board for questions to Colleen or
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I agree with you. That's what I was going to comment too. Is there anything that can go wrong, though, from just because we passed it, and I see Mr. Young smiling, but is there anything that can go wrong from now till the 1st of January with that's implementing that half-a-cent sales tax? Is it pretty much, we passed a resolution and we were all on board. Because I'd hate to what I'm saying is this is a preliminary, and I don't even want to say the word 15%, but we can go down, but I just hate to see something go wrong in that sales tax from now till the 1st of January.
Mr. Commissioner, I chuckled because you asked if anything could go wrong, and of course, something can go wrong. You have done what you were supposed to do to implement the local option sales tax, so you are safe in going ahead now and relying upon that income for setting what your levy is.
Thank you.
The only thing not 100% sure is what it'll generate, right? But we've done our due diligence with the extension service to get that number projected, and that's what we've used. So
I just wanted to mention too, one of the items that she talked about was the increase in court-appointed fees.
Yeah.
That does not go to my office. That goes to private attorneys that are appointed to represent people in child protection cases, in chemical dependency cases, in mental illness cases, guardianships. That is, if you want to say, where is our drug problem in McLeod County? That's one of the costs of that drug problem that you're facing. The vast majority of those child protection cases are parents who are chemically dependent, who have kids that need to be cared for because their parents can't do it because of drug addiction.
So it's honestly through court administration, not the county attorney's
Right.
office. Yep.
Then
Okay.
I just have one, I just wanted to show you one slide because it'll show, it'll kind of show how it affects a homeowner. Can you pull that up? Thanks. So I did put this together because I got the proposed county tax payable, the net levy. We had the net levy in there, net tax capacity and estimated tax capacity rate. So now this is obviously if your house value doesn't change, which usually isn't the case, but so if we're looking at the last column then, how much your taxes will go up for the county portion. So if you have a $100,000 residential, it's going to go up $15 for the county portion. Now that's all things staying the same. So your estimated value stays the same, taxable market value is the same, net tax capacity. All of that remains the same, that it should only affect your taxes by $15.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? It's the funnest part of the year.
Colleen, why don't you go back to the slide that has the levy for the 8.9%? Because that's what they're going to be voting on most likely.
So here is the, God, that doesn't, that's the total levy.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I guess I will go ahead and make the motion to approve the levy at 8.9% or at the $24,628,317 for
The preliminary levy. Yep. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, almost. Okay. Go ahead.
Go
ahead, Ron.
I thought someone else was going to step in. But this is the preliminary levy. For those folks watching, the final levy is set in late December following the Truth and Taxation hearing. So everybody has the opportunity to review these numbers, massage them for the next 3 months, and advise the county board if you think we're on the right track. But I feel that this is the responsible thing for this county board to do, is to balance our budgets, keep the county in good repair, and keep well-qualified staff working for the citizens of McLeod County. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my comment.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Colleen, for all
Thank
your
you.
work. Thanks to the Budget Committee. Open forum or press relations. Anyone wish to address the board or for the press? Hearing and seeing none.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before we just adjourn here, there's one comment I forgot to address, and I've said it before, and I get cautioned not to repeat myself, but there was one comment made about why we're at 5-1 a lot of times, and I would ask people to look at our schedules and look at the workshops that we have, and we do a lot of research that's not seen at board meetings, and we do a lot of, I don't want to use the word battling, but debating back and forth on how to come up with solutions. And when we're talking about these kind of expenditures, it's kind of nice to, before it comes in front of the board, to have some idea on what direction we're going in. So I just wanted, I forgot to comment on that earlier, and I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, and, you know, you said 5-1, but 5-0.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But they're done in workshop settings, which are open to the public, and they're on our website too, when that occurs. All right, looking for a motion to resource to our next meeting, October 8th at 9 a.m. at the Glencoe City Center.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer, second by Commissioner Wright. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.